Well, Larry, here we are on the eve of your next great, exciting trip down to Texas to watch
Yes.
Starship yet again. And it was fun to see all the things on their list that they're planning to do, which was pretty exciting. You care to comment on any of that?
Well, it's a little worrying. I mean, it's an extremely aggressive program that they have. And so I'm hoping that the launch will happen on time because, it's going to get me in a little bit of trouble if I don't get it on time. I've got schedules to keep and I've got to get back. So I'm hoping that it all happens the way it's supposed to happen. These things never happen the way
Right.
they're supposed to happen. So I'm giving like a day or two slippage, but once it goes beyond two, I'm going to have to come back.
Oh
So
my.
I hope it doesn't slip too far. I wouldn't be surprised if it does slip, to be honest, because simply there's just so much to go, in this IFT7 that they're working on that to launch on time seems unlikely. And the weather's not great on Saturday, so I expect it to slip to Sunday. If it slips much beyond Sunday, I'm going to have to retreat.
Gotcha.
So I'm very excited, but I'm a little concerned.
Right. All right. So Troy Teslike,
Yes,
who I have great respect for, even though
yes.
a lot of people don't. He says he believes, he put out a thing today, he says he believes that 2025 volume will still be difficult due to low demand for Tesla vehicles. And I sent something back to him and I gave my four reasons why I believe that it should not be trouble for next year, which are pretty
Yeah.
obvious. That would be the Juniper would be increasing Model Y sales, and there's a lot of pent-up demand for that. The increase in Cybertruck just due to the ramp, and then an increase due to the new Model Q. And then you and I talked about this on Friday, a massive increase if the unsupervised happens. So those are the four things I sent back to him. And he responded by saying, yeah, but Randy, last year you said they were going to say he brought the receipts too. Lots of nice shots of my video presentation saying that I said 2.5 million last year and that I was way, way off.
And I think you'll remember that I was very skeptical as well.
Of my 2.5
Last
goal. My 2.5 was a stretch goal. I think my real number was 2.3, but that still 500,000 too.
Whatever, yeah.
Um,
Firstly, let me say this. Troy is both right and wrong, as we all are. I mean, firstly, Troy is more right than wrong in most cases. But I think he is discounting Juniper and he is discounting the new model. Um, UK had a very good month last month.
yes, they did. Mhm.
And, he's in the UK. I don't think he allowed for that. I, Troy is very valuable. I regard him as one of the gems of the community. I think that he brings a lot of realism, uh, and I think we need to listen to him. So everything depends on how well, how quickly, and how broadly they roll out Juniper. Everything depends upon how soon and how well and how broadly they roll out the lower price car,
Mhm.
because those are the factors that will determine volume of cars. And he's right to be skeptical. We are to be forgiven for being a little ambitious. Something may happen in the middle. Hopefully, it'll happen in the middle. Even more, hopefully, it'll happen on our end, but it could well happen on Troy's end. So I would say that the judgment is out. I'm I'm becoming less and less concerned about auto volumes and far more concerned about the rollout of FSD and Optimus.
Right.
On FSD, I don't know if you saw, but you know, on the independent sites that do monitoring of FSD performance, we are seeing a massive increase in in
Trials.
or in miles driven between interventions, a
Wow.
really massive
I
increase.
did miss that.
Pardon?
I missed that. Yes, I did not see that.
No, we saw that today.
Okay.
The first time we've seen this kind of increase, and it's the first evidence with really significant amount of miles, and we're beginning to see that. But they didn't need to publish that for me.
Yeah.
I'm experiencing that myself. I'm experiencing ride after ride after ride with zero intervention, and I haven't done that in the past.
Right. Right.
So we are definitely seeing a sea change. Now, there are specific issues, and I'm sure the team have been fed back those specific
Right.
issues, and I'm sure they're going to deal with that. And I'm a little concerned about how slow it is to be able to roll out all the variants, at the same time. But getting beyond that issue, I think we're seeing, my experience in software goes back 40 years, 50 years, actually.
Right. Right. Yeah, keep,
In
keep
50
going.
years,
Keep going there.
in 50 years, I've begun to realize the rhythm of these things
Yes. Hmm.
and where we are in terms of the rhythm of these things. I know we're on the straightaway to the finish.
Gotcha.
So I'm very comfortable that we are going to see FSD mature and autonomy arrive sometime this year. I'm not, Omar will tell you in 2023 that we were going to
Right.
see,
Right.
autonomy that year. In 2024, well, in 2025, I believe that we're going to see a realistic candidate for true autonomy.
Reigns 1221. He's very conservative. He tends to, if anything, be looking for every possible problem. Today, he was almost effervescent in his praise of 13.2.2.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. 13.2 is a remarkable achievement. And there are some remaining issues. But by the way, many of those remaining issues are issues that we have with Waymo anyway.
Right.
So all I can say is that we are really, really close. The team has done an incredible job. I mean, you have to, if you look at all the variants, all the releases in the past, and you've seen how long it's taken each of those releases to improve, when you look at the rate of improvement of version 13, it's just been two, maybe even three, sub-releases within version 13. I mean, it's amazing. So I really think we're on the home stretch. It's kind of what I've seen before. As I've said before, I've seen this movie,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I think we're very close to done. And I remain very comfortable and positive that 2025 is going to lead us to autonomy.
Well,
So
go ahead. Yeah.
all I'm saying is that all of this stuff about the sales of this version and that of this car versus that car and this release, all of that pales into insignificance.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. I'm going to have a couple of stories on Trump today. Again, we do a couple of things politically here. We try to, as much as possible, have them be relevant to either the economy or to Tesla. He received, of course, his official stamp of approval today. He's officially the president of the United States, and
Officially the president-elect of the United
elect.
States.
Yes. With
Yes.
the now only the passage of time is the
Yes.
only thing we have to worry about. 2 weeks from now, he'll be able to take over. What is going to happen to Giga Mexico?
I think Giga Mexico is in abeyance. I think a lot turns on how successful the rollout is of the new version and of the Cybercab. It could be that the Cybercab is in such demand that they'll open a Giga Mexico.
Hmm.
But all eyes, at Tesla are on Cybercab. They
Mhm.
are not on the release of the lower cost vehicle. I think the lower cost vehicle is a nod to the legacy Tesla. What
Uh-huh.
is the legacy Tesla? Making vehicles for drivers.
Right.
That's the legacy Tesla.
Right.
And to the extent that the legacy auto business continues, the legacy Tesla will make those vehicles to provide for that. And it's clear that we need a less expensive Model Y or less expensive Model 3. So, if there's continued demand for that less expensive Model 3 or less expensive Model Y, then maybe they'll do a Giga, but I wouldn't put too much money on that right now.
Okay. Do you think it has anything to do with Trump, or do you think it's just in terms of the focus now being so much on automated driving that it's just not on the top of their list?
I think the latter. Look, if they have to get into very large volumes on the robot cab,
Okay.
then why not build it in Mexico,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
right?
Well, Trump might have a problem with that.
Well, that's true, and I think that even Elon would have a problem with that. So I think that that's going to be balanced.
Okay. All right.
So I think there's a deal to be done with Mexico. We have to close the border.
Yeah. Yeah.
And part of that deal is, who gives and who takes. And because, Trump can impose a settlement on Mexico.
Right.
Does he want to? He'd prefer not to. History shows that he's an extremely good negotiator,
Right.
but that he often settles on a really, give and take solution.
Mhm, mhm.
So I think there's some to be given here and there's much to be taken. Let's see how it evolves. I don't think I don't think at the end of the day Trump wants to cut Mexico off. I think he's quite happy to negotiate a deal with Mexico where there's something for them and quite a lot for us. And I think the border is very important, but fentanyl is even more important.
Mhm.
And so in terms of giving them the ability to manufacture vehicles, I think that I may be wrong on that. I think that's a fair enough give, but we'll see.
I'm going to throw out an unpopular opinion. So last week, you and I had quite a robust debate about Optimus. And so since then, Unitree has been out with a couple of new videos. They were one of them was kind of new, and the other one, I mean, they were. I've been seeing the Unitree stuff right along. You probably have too, and
Yeah.
they're doing quite a nice job. But the thing that Unitree is doing that really nobody else is doing is they have product for sale. You can buy it right now. You could order one for yourself, Larry, right this second. The dog's only $1,600 and the human is only 16,000. You could buy a few, Larry, and have them start doing some gardening or something. I'm not sure what. So it caused me to have this question because some of the things that it looks like the Unitree products could do right now were things that I had in mind in my list of the things that I thought Optimus could do. Picking up the trash at the beach, um, security details around industrial buildings or government buildings, things of that nature. And I could go on down a long list of very simple tasks.
Yeah, so those tasks are not the tasks those are not use cases that Tesla are pursuing. They're
So
just not.
so that was my question. Do you think that, as usual, Elon is playing 4D chess? He already expected there to be lots of low-end bots out there that could do a lot of the low-hanging fruit, as Dr. John likes to talk about. And that what he's really trying to do is end up with a bot that is the top of the line that can do the most sophisticated things almost out the door, and try to get to that end of the market. Do you think that's what's going on?
Oh, absolutely, that's what's
Okay.
going on.
All right.
I wouldn't put it quite in the language that you put it in, but you know, what Unitree is doing is really good. it's opening the market, it's taking a leadership position at the low end, and they'll continue and they'll start climbing up towards the upper end. Tesla's entering in the upper end. Think about the Nissan. What was the first car that Nissan brought out? The very low end Nissan car they brought out.
It wasn't even Nissan though, right? It was before they changed their name.
Datsun.
Datsun, yeah, the Datsun, yeah.
No, I'm thinking about their
Oh,
first electric car. They,
well, the
they
first
had
electric car, the Leaf.
the Leaf.
Yes,
The Leaf came out, before the
yeah,
the Model 3,
long time.
and it was a low end, but it certainly performed the function. And there were people who worried about the Leaf taking over the market and completely out competing Tesla, but that wasn't Tesla's objective.
Right,
Tesla was aiming for what was a four-door family sedan that was really, really, could perform the functions of a four-door sedan. The Leaf was good for, 50 miles or whatever, and, was a very unique, use case. We've got the same situation here. So I wouldn't say that it changes my view in any particular.
yeah, no, I wasn't looking for a change in your view. I was curious to know if that's what you think that the, see, I'm always thinking marketing, Larry. That's my end of the spectrum. I'm sure I'm a manufacturer as well, but my heart is always in marketing. And it was like, okay, I was contemplating that Tesla would just move in and take over, almost all niches, except maybe the really tiny niches like hospital care or something like that. But I think I've
I
changed.
think those niches it'll definitely take. I think the more the demand, the more demanding the use case, the easier it's going to be for Optimus to shine. The lower the end of the use case, you know, patrolling the borders of a factory.
Right, right.
I mean, showing a presence, that kind of stuff. That's not their business. I mean, you're not going to sell a 25 to 55 to $100,000 bot to do a $10,000 bot job. And that's all there is to it. And so it's much easier to roll out a $10,000, $20,000 bot than it is to roll out, a top
Right.
end, fully cognizant, a bot with,
Cognizant. Yeah, be careful. Be careful of your words there, Larry.
yeah, yeah, with all the capabilities that they plan for Optimus. So look, as I say in my piece, and I'm sure you haven't read it yet because it goes on forever,
No, no,
but
I bet I already heard it because you said it was just a copy.
yeah,
Just, yeah.
in my piece I say that Tesla are focused on really the top end of the line, fully automated, fully um, I guess, implementable humanoid-like functionality. And that's where they stake their claim, and that's where they're going to go. And it's going to take another year or two to get there.
All right. Okay. Now we'll go back to Trump again because this is another thing that occurred to me today, and I ran a poll about it. When I bet you that most people, when he started talking about um, uh, Canada being the 51st state, Greenland being the 52nd state, and that he was going to take back control of the Panama Canal, most people they probably just dismissed it like you're like
Yeah,
laughing, like what are you even talking about? That's
yeah.
the craziest idea. And then all of a sudden today, I started contemplating it a little deeper, and it was like, well, guaranteed that taking over Canada or merging with Canada would be great for both countries. I mean, there's just like I can't
Uh,
think, I can hardly think of any negatives associated with it other than
the
the
simple negative is the Canadian people would not do that.
well, that's again the assumption.
Aside from that,
Apart from that, if they are so unhappy right now with their economics that they might be interested. I know that for years the Vancouverites wanted to join up. You could have taken a poll up in Vancouver, and they would have said, "Yeah, if we could join the U.S., we would do that."
I have a dear friend in Vancouver who would not
Not
accept that
agree.
perspective. Look, the Canadians, by and large, there would not be a majority of Canadians or even a minority of Canadians who are very strongly in favor of that. But clearly, the Canadians are in a position to reject this government, the government that has driven them into this very, very deep hole.
Right.
I think that Canada is going to resurrect itself. I think they're going to be fine over time. And this guy Poilievre seems to be the medicine that they need.
Yeah.
Poilievre was very strong when he responded to Trump. He was very clear. No way, Jose.
That was what Canada said. Okay. Anyway, but what occurred to me, Larry, was that it's such an Elon thing to say. It's a Mars shot as opposed to even a moon shot. It's like, what if you put this idea out and someday, because whatever the Canadian,
You really want such a huge number of work people to join the United States of America? Don't you have enough work people here already?
well, that's exactly what I said in the poll was
Yeah.
we would have to have some kind of an agreement where they would be a territory until they became more palatable politically, because yeah.
Yeah, don't underestimate Canada. Canada has a lot of depth to it, a lot of strength to it. So I would say that there is no sentiment, very few people in Canada have a strong sentiment to join the United States. And so that's not a non-starter, even in the wildest dreams. But having said that, I think Canada's ready for a major change. I think this government has really, I won't use the vulgar term, but they really haven't done very well in the bed. And so I think, that they're ready for a change. And Poilievre, is a very, I mean, he seems to have a very strong sense of Canada as a great nation. And maybe he'll lead them to a great nation. I think they have every opportunity. Look, the last battle the United States fought in Canada didn't go so well for the United States. So
Oh no, I wouldn't look for this to be a takeover. This would have to be a good, it would have to be something where both sides were saying, "Hey, let's go." But here was the interesting part, Larry. The poll, 41% of those who took the poll, I'm sorry, 41% of those who answered one way or the other said that they would be in favor of it. These are probably mostly Americans. 31% said no. 20% said worth thinking about. So you have a plurality of people that were either yes or worth thinking about. I thought that was pretty interesting.
if you'd restricted the poll to Canadians alone, may have been interesting.
I think, yeah, we should do that. I should do that tonight. I'll do that when we get off and see if we can get enough Canadians to make it worth even paying attention to. Anyway, what about Greenland? Greenland, now there's all kinds of talk that Greenland,
Greenland's a whole different case.
yeah.
Greenland is a strategic necessity for the United States. There's no doubt about it. In the modern world, having listening stations and technical access to Greenland is critical. Not important, but critical.
Uh-huh.
And we can have that both ways. We can have that either with Greenland as a territory and ultimately perhaps as something higher than a territory, or we can have it as a way to, in some kind of relationship with Denmark. I'm not sure that either way matters.
Mhm.
I'm not sure it matters which way it is, but Greenland has shown interest in becoming a territory of the United States. Very,
Interesting. Interesting.
and so, if Greenland were to execute on that, I'm not sure Denmark would necessarily stand in the way. And so that was a very interesting move on Trump's behalf. And with Trump, you really need to take him seriously.
Yeah.
People don't realize just how seriously you need to take him. He is very strategic in his thinking. I'd recommend everybody go and listen to Alan Dershowitz
Oh,
on the Show. Alan Dershowitz is, he is a very senior lawyer. He's got a lot of experience behind him. He does deal very strongly with the whole lawfare issue that, has been this administration and prior and not administrations, but prior government institutions. I would say listen to him carefully because he actually tackles the subject quite well, very
hmm,
well.
hmm.
And he's not a Republican. He's
Right, right.
very
Yes.
independent, very independent. So yeah, I think that Trump has really focused on the right issue with Greenland, and I think Greenland's going to be an interesting exercise going forward.
And so then we have the third one. That's the Panama Canal. I mean, there's got to be a number that Panama would be willing to take. I mean, those guys are grafters anyway. Uh, so there's
Don't demean
Panama.
Panama. Don't demean Canada. I mean, they're an independent country. They're not gonna give up their independence. Um, would they, would they? It's an interesting situation. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, one of the things about you have to understand about Trump is that he always lays out
Right, right.
the ultimate potential, and then he, cedes some territory on the way. So I think that it's interesting that he's made this move. But here's the thing to remember, that he's no longer go along to get along. He is reaching for the United States' greatest advantage in every conversation, whether it's with the Israelis, with the Saudis, with the Panamanians, but he is thinking about the United States and the United States only. And so this is a huge sea change from this idea we all belong to the flat earth and everybody's. No, he understands that in the great relationships, in this great game of the relationships between states, each state has to look to its own.
Mhm.
And it's a welcome relief from where we've been in the past.
Okay. My last subject of the day is one that I care a lot about. I'm not sure that either one of us are qualified to talk about it, but maybe you are more than me. So it's about this bond market. And you've heard me say
How
that
am I qualified more than you? I mean, nobody knows. Nobody knows.
nobody knows. So I've been saying for a couple of weeks now that I believe the bond market is waiting for Doge, that they don't believe it. They've seen this, as you just said a minute ago, they've already seen this movie. They know the ending. And that they want to see some actual action out of Doge. They want to see the Republican Congress actually back Doge up. They want to
Yeah.
see some kind of something that makes them believe that the deficit is going to be dealt with because it's so out of control, and that would be the thing that would finally maybe get the rally started. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say it's even worse than that. I don't think that they're waiting for Doge to get it started because I don't think they believe Doge can achieve anything.
Okay, but then if they saw some evidence, do you think that would? Yeah,
That's different.
that's the
If they see evidence, I think they're there to be surprised, and I don't think they expect to be surprised.
right.
And I think that's why we're seeing this, move up in interest rates. And until Trump can perform, the Trump
Right,
administration
right,
does
right.
his budget, whoever is the officer of management of budget, who I forget who it is actually, but they have a huge task ahead of them. I mean, we are on autopilot to disaster. There's no doubt about it. We're on autopilot to disaster. How we switch off the autopilot and how we moderate, I don't know. And I have a video coming out of a conversation I had about healthcare.
Hmm.
Because healthcare, if you look at our forecasted deficit over the next 10 years, most of it comes from healthcare.
Yeah,
And so healthcare is on autopilot to disaster.
right.
So how do you fix healthcare? And I've been speaking to some people who have some outstanding ideas of how to resolve it. So there are opportunities, but it's very, very difficult. It's extraordinarily difficult to implement them. But that's what we have to do, and everybody's waiting to see that happen. You're right in that regard. We don't have the Republicans do not have the numbers in Congress to comfortably implement, whatever policy they decide to pursue.
Right.
So it's going to depend upon, extraordinary performance from the president and leadership in Congress to make this happen. We kind of saw the kind of deals that were going to be made in the last, in that last round in the Congress. It's going to be even more difficult in the new Congress. I mean, getting this, getting through what we managed to get through in the last 4 weeks was very difficult. It's going to be more difficult in the new Congress. So I'm not super optimistic.
So I said that was the last subject, but I remembered another one while you were talking. So Gary Black and I, and actually
This is going to cost more.
extra. So Gary Black and I, and not just the two of us, but many, many others got involved in quite a conversation on X yesterday about the whole business of the whether Tesla should be advertising or not, whether they should have a PR department. And um, I only am interested. You can talk about as much of it as you want to, but I'm only interested in one question, just your opinion, because I don't know whether you've done any advertising at the level of what we're talking about, like with the television stations and the big national consumer magazines and whatnot. I haven't, but I've done a tremendous amount of advertising with the next level down, with the radio stations, with national and international magazines that are industrial or institutional level, like Bicycling Magazine or something of that nature, which is still that's a big magazine. My experience with all of these magazines is the Chinese wall does not exist. There is not a wall between editorial and advertising.
Yeah, here's the situation. It really mattered. The wall really mattered when it was holding back this gigantic dam, that would flood completely the editorial.
Right.
The dam is empty. There's nothing that's going to flood the editorial. They are broke.
They're
All
broke.
the magazines, all the newspapers, all the press and newspapers and
Regular
TV
television.
television, they're broke. They're frigging broke. They're bust. What the hell are we going to advertise? To whom? Nobody's watching those television programs. Nobody's reading those terrible newspapers. I mean, what is Gary talking about? He's talking about a dead, this parrot is dead. It is a dead parrot. It has gone to its maker. There is nothing left.
And we couldn't even find any newspaper to wrap it up in.
Right on. I mean, what are they talking about? They are talking about they're living in such a dead world. It's incredible. My whole point about the Optimus was Gary talking about, 500,000 Optimi as the TAM.
Right.
Or a million Optimi, a million robots as the TAM.
Right.
this is a dead world. This is a world that doesn't exist anymore. And these people are living in this dead world. I mean, come on. Who reads the Wall Street Journal anymore? You know, he published a piece about the back page of the Wall Street Journal.
Uh-huh.
And I attacked it and then he deleted it. And correctly so, because the back page of the Wall Street Journal is the most unread part of the Wall Street Journal, which is one of the most unread financial journals left. I mean, it's actually better than all the others, but it's just as unread. So, I mean, you know, so he's wrong and Tesla's right. And for all those journals you talk about, you're wrong as well. Printed matter is dead matter.
Oh, no, I said the print journals that I was dealing with, there was no Chinese wall ever.
Huh.
No, there
How
was
was it?
there was always give and take between editorial and advertising.
But the reason the Chinese wall is even less existent now, is even lower now,
Yeah, yeah.
is because when times get this bad,
Uh-huh.
then it's the same people on both sides of that wall.
Yeah.
So to think about the Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg or
The
New
NBC,
Yorker, New York, what's it?
Fortune magazine, or
Yeah, whatever it is, these all of these all of these publications are bankrupt. They're skating on this very thin ice. They all know they're going to fall through the ice. They don't know how to get off the ice. They just don't know how to get off
right,
the ice.
right.
They've gone onto the cloud. They've gone onto the internet. They're doing whatever they can on the internet, but it's just the same thin ice. Look, Washington Post is going to be sold very shortly out of, Bezos's hand, out of Bezos. I mean, Bezos couldn't finance it anymore.
Right.
Bezos had to cry wolf. If Bezos has to cry wolf, what's left? The New York Times? Give me a break. I mean, they talk about a Chinese wall at the New York Times because of this. Come on. I mean,
Yes,
it's
and
not going
and I think I've heard rumors anyway that the television stations are controlled by the pharmaceuticals. I could be wrong about that, but about a third of the advertising or something on television is pharmaceuticals.
You could be wrong about that, but you know what? You're not wrong about that. It's now a joke. This whole world that they lived in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the aughts is done. And Gary lives in that world and he's just plain wrong.
Okay, well, on that note, let's look at the numbers, Larry.
Yeah.
So we had Tesla, which was up 16 at one point this morning,
And then,
went
pew,
all the way down to -6.
why? Why?
Well, the whole market did. So,
Okay. Okay.
but Tesla seemed to be leading. It seemed to lead the charge lower. Probably Kathy Wood might have sold, and who knows? It's profit taking. There was no news. All the news was good. There was no negative news. So probably just, the same old. But then it bottomed out, and folks came in and said, well, that seems low enough. Now we'll buy some back. We've got a lot of people I know on X that think it's all a conspiracy, Larry. They think that the big players,
Yeah.
beat them
Yeah.
down, yeah.
Even the conspiracists don't have enough money. How, yeah. What was the volume?
On Tesla today, I didn't look, Larry.
Okay, because that, you should always check the volume before you
I
check.
It looks like it started off really high, and it was a little bit higher at the end,
Hmm.
but I don't have the total. Oh,
Okay.
maybe I do. Um, yes, I'm sorry, 84 million.
84 millions are a very respectable volume.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a lot of trading going on.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the first day of the new week. I mean, really, last week, those 2 days didn't count. This is really the first day of the new year. So it's not surprising that there was a lot of shuffling going on. We'll see what happens throughout the week. Anyway, ended up 61 cents, and the after hours is down 40 cents. So pretty much I would call that a flat day. And
Yeah.
so still sitting at
What do you
410.
think of my NVIDIA trade, huh?
Did you make it?
No.
Oh, and now they're going to have this announcement any minute. Gary,
Yeah.
Brian Wong and I are going to do a special right
Good.
after he speaks. So
Yeah.
for you
I
to be,
called it right, but I didn't execute.
I know what the heck, Larry. You did absolutely call it right. Uh, NVIDIA was up 496, but it had been up even more. It had been up, I think, around.
Well, since I called it, it's been up about 8.
Yeah, yeah. It was as what was the high for the day? The high today was 152.
Oh,
Yeah, 152 was the high. So
yeah. Yeah.
that's pretty good. And then also another big one was Meta today. It was up 4%, up
Wow.
25.57 on the day. So, and it ended on the high of the day. So it had a very good day. Overall, the Dow ended up down after being up by 250 or 300 points in the early going, but only 25. NASDAQ ended up 243. It had been up much higher than that. And the S&P also ended up 32, but it had been much higher than that. So all in all, a lot of action, mostly up, mostly positive. And then there's the bonds, Larry.
Yeah. So tell us about the boss. What?
So in the after hours,
Yeah.
pre-market, whatever you want to call it, we're sitting at 4.63.
That's not bad.
It's the high. I think it's the highest it's been since it was, since it came down. I think so.
Not that far higher than it was on Friday.
Anyway, the 2 year is at 4.27 and the 1 month is at 4.34. So they can, yeah, okay. They're still both lower at least than the 10 year. So, that inversion thing that we talked about for 2.5 years, it reinverted and nobody's talking about either one of them anymore. Is that the end of the inversion reversion thing? Will we never hear anybody speak of it again in future?
Yeah, well, we live in a simulation, so there you go.
Okay, then
They're,
we
they're toying with us. They're toying with
yes.
us.
Yeah, and they're toying us with an oil too. Now it is
Yeah.
a major cold snap in the Northeast and the Midwest, so maybe that's the reason. Oil is sitting at 73.34. It's supposed to be, I'm thinking it should be going down. It's going up. Brent unchanged and Texas Intermediate down 22 cents in the pre-market. Natural gas shot up again today, Larry, but ended up only at 368. So that's kind of in the range. None,
Yeah.
none of this is crazy. It's all kind of in the range. Maybe when the cold snap is over. Of course, the biggest cold snaps are usually in February, right? When I lived in the Midwest, we always feared February.
Well, here in the South, this is really peak cold because, I mean, my wife showed me today a picture of us 8 years ago digging out of the snow.
I see.
So, I mean, this is not unusual, but, we haven't had real snow. I mean, since 81, when we had like 4 weeks of snow. Those days are over. I mean, we sometimes have picnic on the ski slopes of what was the ski slope. So,
Yeah, well, we haven't had a drop of rain in California, Southern California, not a drop, and there's nothing in the forecast. So I don't know what's going to happen to California. We may just dry up and blow away with the next strong wind. Um, Fortunately, we've had 2 years in a row of good rain, so we can.
that's if you all haven't emigrated to Texas before then.
So gold unchanged, silver unchanged. I mean, it's not really, but it might as well be. Gold's at
Yeah.
2,645, silver's at $30 and a half, and copper is at $4.15. So that's pretty much in the
The
middle.
commodities market is becoming uninteresting.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, Bitcoin, on the other hand,
Yeah, it's back over 100.
102, 250.
Yeah, we called it last week.
So, so did you buy into that?
No.
Larry, all these calls and you're not taking advantage.
Yeah, but I'm just not a speculator. And that's, I was thinking about the Nvidia and I thought about it seriously, last week, but it doesn't it doesn't inspire me to make a few dollars, speculating on these short-term moves that are so obvious. I gave that up on Tesla and I haven't been able to build this level of excitement or interest in doing that.
Got it.
It
Got it.
just, yeah, it doesn't seem worth the few cells I have left.
So we've got the equities. We're sitting at Dow. Everything's up a little bit as we're looking right now at the pre-market. So the Dow's up 21, S&P up 5, NASDAQ up 23. That ends up being Dow 0.05, so not very much up. The S&P up a little more, up 0.10, and the NASDAQ up 0.13. So Larry, the great rotation is not happening. The techs are still in charge. NASDAQ's still in charge. I don't see any real evidence that that is going to change because those companies are all doing very, very well. And in addition to seeing the president inaugurated, seeing Tesla's earnings, we're going to get to see all but NVIDIA's earnings, I think, in the next 3 weeks also. So it should be super interesting to see what's going on with with all the tech the whole shooting match.
Well, yeah, AJ is projecting not a great quarter from earnings perspective. So
76.
so that will have an impact, maybe on the stock price.
I think the 76 is not outside of expectations, Larry. I don't know. I wonder.
I think expectations are going to be above 80. That's
Oh,
my,
you think the street will be above 80 and yeah,
I
okay.
think so. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I've asked I actually sent a note to AJ. Maybe I should send a DM to him. I asked him about 4 questions about his numbers, in particular about the IRA money, the battery money, but also about the FSD assumptions in terms of the money that's been sequestered. So I'm not.
Yeah, whether they'll actually recognize any of that.
Yeah, I have to assume they're going to recognize some of it because it's certainly, a lot of
Yeah,
use.
the parking, I think the parking gets some score. I
Yeah,
think it's something.
yeah.
Yep. Yep. Maybe.
All right. Well, any last? Well, let me just mention maybe Brian White tonight, maybe Brian Wong. So I mean, the Brian White video is already published, but if we're going to do a Jensen follow-up tonight with Brian Wong, that Brian White might have to wait. So I'm either going to be Wong or Wright. How many times can I use that joke, Larry?
Well, yeah, I mean, it gets a bit of a smile each time.
And other than that, Larry, any last words for the faithful before you shoot off to Texas?
No, I just hope everybody's not, getting over their skis and any of these ideas we put on the plate. These are dangerous times, as they all are.
Of course, of course.
So unless you're investing for the long term, be very careful out there.
Okay, Larry, as always, thank you for coming on board. And to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.